generally in the views I take." "I entirely coincide with them," said Mr. Crisparkle, who had been very attentive. "As I have no doubt I should," added Mr. Tartar, smiling, "if I understood them." "Fair and softly, sir," said Mr. Grewgious. "We shall fully confide in you directly, if you will favour us with your permission. Now, if our local friend should have any informant on the spot, it is tolerably clear that such informant can only be set to watch the chambers in the occupation of Mr. Neville. He reporting to our local friend, who comes and goes there, our local friend would supply for himself, from his own previous knowledge, the identity of the parties. Nobody can be set to watch all stable, or to concern himself with comers and goers to other sets of chambers, unless indeed mine." "I begin to understand what you tend," said Mr. Crisparkle, "and highly approve of your caution." "I needn't repeat that I know nothing yet of the why and wherefore," said Mr. Tartar, "but I also understand to what you tend. So let me say at once that my chambers are freely at your disposal." "There!" cried Mr. Grewgious, smoothing his head triumphantly. "Now we have all got the idea. You have it, my dear?" "I think I have," said Rosa, blushing a little as Mr. Tartar looked quickly towards her. "You see, you go over to Staple with Mr. Crisparkle and Mr. Tartar," said Mr. Grewgious. "I going in and out, and out and in alone, in my usual way. You go up with those gentlemen to Mr. Tartar's rooms. You look into Mr. Tartar's flower garden. You wait for Miss Helena's appearance there, or you signify to Miss Helena that you are close by, and you communicate with her freely, and no spy can be the wiser." "I am very much afraid I shall be—" "Be what, my dear?" asked Mr. Grewgious, as she hesitated. "Not frightened?" "No, not that," said Rosa, shyly. "In Mr. Tartar's way. We seem to be appropriating Mr. Tartar's residence so very coolly." "I protest to you," returned that gentleman, "that I shall think the better of it for evermore, if your voice sounds in it only once." Rosa, not quite knowing what to say about that, cast down her eyes, and turning to Mr. Grewgious, dutifully asked if she could put her hat on. Mr. Grewgious being of opinion that she could do no better, she withdrew for the purpose. Mr. Crisparkle took the opportunity of giving Mr. Tartar a summary of the distresses of Neville and his sister. The opportunity was quite long enough, as the hat happened to require a little extra fitting on. Mr. Tartar gave his arm to Rosa, and Mr. Crisparkle walked detached in front. "Poor, poor Eddy!" thought Rosa as they went along. Mr. Tartar waved his right hand as he bent his head down over Rosa, talking in an animated way. "It was not so powerful or so sun-browned when it saved Mr. Crisparkle," thought Rosa, glancing at it, "but it must have been very steady and determined even then." Mr. Tartar told her that he had been a sailor, roving everywhere, for years and years. "When are you going to sea again?" asked Rosa. "Never." Rosa wondered what the girls would say if they could see her crossing the wide street on the sailor's arm, and she fancied that the passers-by must think her very little and very helpless, contrasted with the strong figure that could have caught her up and carried her out of any danger, miles and miles without resting. She was thinking further that his far-seeing blue eyes looked as if they had been used to watch dangers afar off, and to watch it without flinching, drawing nearer and nearer, when, happening to raise her own eyes, she found that he seemed to be thinking something about them. This a little confused Rosebud, and may account for her never afterwards quite knowing how she ascended, with his help, to his garden in the air, and seemed to get into a marvellous country that came into sudden bloom like the country on the summit of the magic beanstalk. May it flourish for ever. End of chapter 21. Read by Alan Chant of Tunbridge in Kent, England, during the summer of 2008. 2 chapters remain in this unfinished novel by Charles Dickens.